Kaufman Corner podcast is off and running here on a Sunday night. If you're catching us via the podcast, remember you can be a part of the conversation, be in the live stream Sunday nights at 9 o'clock. Rany Jazayerli, the good doctor, with you as always. Soren Petro here. We will discuss the Royals offense. Can it be fixed? Is there a solution for this offense, or is this going to be a problem all year long? Hunter Renfroe and MJ Melendez combined today to go 0-8. They are struggling. Is this a plan? Do they have a timeline? It's like to this point and we eject, or do they just have no other answer? Do the Royals have depth to handle the injuries that are starting to mount? We'll get into that subject as well. We'll take a moment to just appreciate Cole Ragans and how absolutely fantastic he's been. What will a successful road trip be for this team? 10 games on the road. They're 1-2 to start it. Plus we'll get into the minor leagues, a little bit of minor league minutes, all coming up right now here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner Podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany on the Royals, and a former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it, get with Dave and he'll have you covered. Give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. And now, here are your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
All right, thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. How about it, Rany? They get a win. They salvage one game out of the series. I think that's more important than people may realize in this scenario. To get that one win, we'll get to that a little bit more later on when we start talking about what needs to happen on this road trip. But offensively, they continue to struggle. It's still early, but at some point it's not going to be early, and we're not seeing a lot of signs of life. All right, is it time to just expect that this offense is going to be this moribund all year, or is there reason for hope, Rany? Help me, Rany. You're my only hope. We did Star Wars last week, didn't we?
Sorry?
We did Star Wars last week, didn't we?
Yeah, we do Star Wars randomly like every other week. Yeah, I'm afraid I am not going to be the Jedi in shining armor today. I don't have news of magic to come save us. The offense is what we thought it was, and it's not very good. And I don't want to put too much stock in any one game. We're so early in the season, one game can have a huge effect. But if the Royals had lost today, we'd be pushing some panic buttons on this show. And what's interesting to me is that, the offense, we're kind of realizing the offense may actually just be bad. And yet it may not actually matter that much, in the sense that the pitching might just be good enough that, like last year, they will still be competitive all year long. And it comes down to, can they fix this offense on the fly? But I think we're both kind of realizing that they probably are going to have to fix it on the fly because it is broken, and at least parts of it are. MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfroe, when we talk about the Royals are what we thought they were, those two are definitely what we thought they were, but what we hoped they would not be. They are now, after going 0-8 today, they are 8-4-78 on the season, which I believe is a 103 batting average. They have 2 doubles and no homers. You can't even give them credit for running into a ball here or there. So which means they are slugging around 140. They're slugging. This is left field and right field, my friend. So on the one hand, that's awful. On the other hand, it's like they're 8-8 with 2 absolutely massive scars at positions where offense is not just to be expected, but should be easy to find, even if it means a midseason fix. Like they can't possibly be this bad all season long. So I guess if you want to look at it from a glass half full perspective, they're a 500 team with absolutely no production at all. Not just bad production, no production from two positions they should be getting very good production from.
And listen, as we look at it here, I'm of the opinion that if you're this bad and getting that many at bats, I mean, I just put the comment up here from Steven, it's hard to hit 077 and still get a lot of at bats, but here we are. I agree. Can we let's back up. Do we agree that since JJ Piccolo took over, it seems like common sense and you've got to have real math backing you up has been the approach? Do we agree with that?
They are definitely much more data driven and much more process driven, and also much more much less excuse driven. Like they feel like they are quicker to address problems and to not just ignore reality. Hope is no longer the most important strategy. Like they're if things are broken, they will eventually acknowledge it sooner than they would have before.
Okay, so here's what I'm getting at. We agree that they have been better, right, at doing that. That there seems to be a rhyme and a reason to what all is going on. So if that has been the case, then do we believe that there must be a reason to this? Right? That this isn't, they've just gone like, you know what? Hey, let's channel our inner Dayton Moore. Like that has probably not been said. Do we agree?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. If you ask, why?
Wait a minute, hang on. Just
okay.
Just
I'll lead you. You're leading the witness, but I'll lead you.
So we agree that they're probably not going, hey, screw this logic and reason and math and going for what the data says. Let's just go by the seat of our pants. We really like these guys. We're sticking with them, right? We don't think that that's what they're thinking. So I come to the conclusion that there's one of two things that work. Either there is a set date that they set sail with, that we're going to give him till this date. We're tied up in Hunter Renfroe for this much. We're going to give him this long to get things going. And it may not be the same date for each guy. And we've been trying to make it work with MJ Melendez for this long. And so we're going to go this far before we make a change, right? And then when we get to that date, if they're not hitting, we're ejecting. And if that's sending MJ Melendez down or releasing Hunter Renfroe, we will do it. I think that's one possibility. The other possibility that we'd have to ask ourselves is that there's no answer, right? Who do you want out there? That's the scarier proposition, right? Because right now everyone throws it. Just call up Gavin Cross already. What if the data says Gavin Cross can't hit? Like Gavin Cross is hitting the AA guys that are just has-beens that are filling out rosters, right? They're minor league has-beens that have no place being there. Not every guy in AA warrants being in AA. He's not a prospect. There are lots of guys that are there just to give the handful of prospects somebody to play with. And maybe those are the guys he's hitting against, right? Like, to me, the scarier thing is, like, it is scary. Why do they keep running him out there? There's no doubt about it. Because the first answer is they don't have Fernando Tatis isn't on the bench, right? We know that. We know that they don't have a proven commodity. But they don't even have someone that they're optimistic about right now. Or, see my first point, that they had a date and they haven't gotten to it. And it's worse than they thought it would be, but they, in their heads or even with the player, said, we will give you this long, but you've got to hit. And they're waiting for that date to come around. Doesn't that sound more like the MO of what this organization has been since JJ Piccolo? One of those two things.
Yeah, I certainly don't like the third option is they actually believe in these guys and are going to give it 2 or 3 months, right? I think we both agreed that seems less likely. I don't think they have blinders on to how MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfroe are performing. So at least I'll give them credit for that. But what your two options, I agree with that. I think it's a mixture of both. I mean, the first thing I would say when you ask, why are they letting them play? It's April 13th. Like, whatever that date they have in mind, April 13th is too soon to bail on almost anybody. But having said that, it's pretty clear they're kind of already looking around at other options, right? So Mark Hanna, obviously they brought him late. I think they probably came to this realization in spring training that, not going out and getting an outfielder in the offseason, hoping that they could get through the season with the guys on hand, was not likely to work out. And so they were able to work out a trade with the Brewers and bring in Mark Hanna. And Mark Canha was, I mean, he has the highest OPS on the team in 17 plate appearances. But when he went on the injured list, we saw Drew Waters. Drew Waters is the guy you and I were talking about last week. It's like, if you can call up anybody, here's somebody with major league experience who doesn't suck. He's come up, he's got 8 plate appearances, he's 2 for 8, which may not sound like much, but he has 1 fewer hit than MJ Melendez, Drew Waters. He's 2 for 8. He had a key single in the game-winning rally on Thursday night in his first game. But he's 2 for 8, but he also has 5 strikeouts in 8 plate appearances. He's been caught stealing, and he's made 2 errors in the outfield. Like, that's not easy in 2 starts. So Drew Waters probably going to get some opportunities, but you can kind of see the good and the bad with how he's performed so far. And then if not him, then who? We're probably going to talk about John Rave at some point in this podcast, who's in AAA and hitting fairly well. He's also 27 years old. He's never really been a prospect, but maybe you try and catch lightning in a bottle with him. They tried it last year. Tyler Gentry came up and they tried to catch lightning in a bottle. He got 5 plate appearances and it was pretty clear it wasn't going to work out. They sent him back. But at some point, they're probably going to have to start reaching out for options. But I think they may be coming to the realization that whatever the long-term or season-long solution is for a corner outfield spot may not be in the organization at all right now. But in April 13th, they're not making a trade, but they're probably starting to consider that as the most likely solution, in the end game here.
Yeah, and I think I want to double check here. Yeah, so we had this suggestion. Kid Dynamite says Biggio and Canha in left field until a better solution arises, and Waters and right until June when Jack gets called up. Except for Canha's on the DL, right? Like, it's not that easy. And you mentioned it. Waters' 250 batting average looks better in 8 plate appearances, but he has 5 strikeouts. I mean, like, is that really better? They haven't called Drew Waters up because they don't like the batted ball data, right? They've called him up. They've seen him, and they're obviously not that hot on him, or they'd have brought him up. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, don't you believe that Daniel Mack has to be somewhere highly involved in this decision? And Daniel Mack's the head of analytics for the Royals. That there's no way that they're looking at Drew Waters hitting the minor leagues or sending Drew Waters down and going with MJ Melendez unless there's real data that says those guys aren't any better.
Right. Well, and the problem here's the other thing, of course, is it's not just Melendez and Renfroe. Like, the lineup as a whole,
yes,
Bobby's is phenomenal and amazing. I don't know where we'd be without him. Maikel Garcia has been lovely. Got 3 more hits today. He's really, he's actually, I think Bobby still has a higher OPS, but like, those 2 guys are hitting. Do you know on the active roster right now who is 3rd in OPS? On the entire active roster right now.
God, it's so bad. I was looking through all of them.
He's at 692, by the way. The Royals have 2 guys.
Just FYI, I'm not looking at the stats, but I am looking at the depth chart, which does not have stats. Might be Maikel Garcia.
No, Maikel's 2nd. Bobby and Maikel are 1-2. They're the only 2 guys on the entire roster right now that have a 700 OPS.
I'm going to guess, based on his recent hot streak, Kyle Isbell.
Kyle Isbell, with 3 hits today, is at 692, moving ahead of Vinny at 690. 5th is Salvador at 606. Like, 600 is terrible, right? You can divide OPS by 3 to get a very rough correspondence to batting average. So 600 OPS is like a 200 batting average. There are 5 guys on the team over 600 and 4 that are above 610. So it's top to bottom lineup is just not producing. We had a little bit of this discussion in the offseason, but if they don't start hitting, is Alex Zumwalt the solution as hitting coach? Talk is going to have to get louder, because he came to prominence because MJ Melendez and Nick Prado turned it around in the minor leagues after being written off as prospects. Well, MJ Melendez is broken right now. Nick Prado is hitting literally 100, 3 for 30, I think, in Omaha. And, yes, Bobby Witt has turned into a superstar. I'm going to give the bulk of that credit to Bobby Witt. Vinny Pasquantino has not taken a step forward since he was a rookie. Like, you could go up and down the list. Right now, Maikel Garcia might be a success story, but I just feel like, is the organization not developed? Like, on the pitching side, my God, we can point to 10 guys and be like, Brian Sweeney, and Zach Bove and all the other guys. The pitching, they're doing a stellar job with. All credit there. On the hitting side, very few examples, and they need to start showing some progress in that department.
Well, and I agree. And last year, they were hitting most of the year, and it looked like, okay, we're seeing Vinny Pasquantino come around, but this is a step back. And a couple of people have pointed it out here in the comments section about, I have to see if I can scroll back to find it, but like Kevin Seitzer was available. I mean,
By the way,
there are two guys who ain't professional hitters. Here it was. Terry Seitzer was there.
Mm-hmm.
He was absolutely just sitting there. And
by the way, do you know what team? So the team that's last in the major leagues in runs scored. Okay, worst offense in the baseball. This is hilarious. First off, it's the Colorado Rockies. They play in Coors Field. They have the worst. That organization is probably the worst run organization in baseball. Fine. Do you know who's second worst?
Royals.
The Atlanta Braves.
Oh.
Do you know what happened to the Atlanta Braves?
Yeah, they walked.
Did they lose Ronald Acuna? No. Did they lose Austin Riley? No. Did they lose Sean Murphy? No. Did they lose Ozzie Albies? No. They lost.
Well, Acuna's not playing.
All right, now he's back. He's coming back and forth. But they're on the roster. But you know who they lost? They lost Kevin Seitzer. And Kevin Seitzer left Atlanta, and Atlanta suddenly is the most disappointing team in baseball. They're 4-11 and have the second worst offense in the sport. I know this is a Royals podcast, but I feel like if there's one thing you take away from listening to me on this podcast for the last 4 years, it's that Kevin Seitzer is good at his job. And I just wish somebody in the Kansas City Royals organization would have realized that this winter. Because I would feel, I feel like if they had brought him in, we would not be having this discussion about an offense that is second. They have the second lowest OPS in the American League right now, ahead of only the White Sox, who really shouldn't even count. Like the offense is bad.
Yeah, if people are new to the podcast, let me say this: that we talked a lot about Kevin Seitzer in the offseason, and I asked people, and they're like, "Well, to hire a guy, you got to have a position available." Which we both said, like, not really true. Baseball all the time goes out and makes room. Ned Yost, what the hell did Ned Yost do? He was in the organization before he was the manager. He was like a special assistant to the GM, roving hitting instructor. Like you bring him in and, he's there as a think tank guy, and then you plug him in if it doesn't go well. I mean, that happens all the time in baseball, really in baseball like it does in no other sport. No other sport is as, I think, smart and effective at saying, we've got an opportunity to get a quality guy. We're going to bring him in, and we'll figure out what he's going to do once we get him in here. And they didn't do it. And,
right.
and it's a real riddle.
And you know who did? You know who brought in Kevin Seitzer for a job that didn't really exist? The Seattle Mariners. Because, technically, Edgar Martinez is the hitting coach at Seattle. And they brought in Kevin Seitzer to be, I'm not sure his exact title here, but, he's essentially behind Edgar Martinez. They're a tandem.
Right.
Because when you have somebody who's talented as a coach, as you say, you see this in other sports, more coaches is never a bad thing. You've got 26 players, 13 hitters on a roster. You could use two guys to work with them on their hitting during the season instead of one.
And let's point out a couple of things here. One, is it that Kevin Seitzer's too old for the grind of the game right now? I don't know. He was willing to go to the place that's got the worst travel schedule in all of baseball. So
Right.
I would say no, he's up for the challenge. Well, is it because he's hard to get along with, hard to work with? I don't know. He just signed up where everybody knows he's really going to be the guy, but they're going to parade Edgar Martinez around, Mariner legend, and act like he has something to do with it when everybody and their brother is going to think that it's all Kevin Seitzer
Right.
if he has success. But he's still not publicly going to get the credit, all the credit, because Edgar Martinez is still going to be there. And yet he was still willing to go there and say, yeah, I'll sign on and we can call Edgar my boss and whatever you want to do. So not a big pain in the ass to work with, seemingly.
And I mean, when he left Atlanta, I believe he was the longest tenured hitting coach in baseball, maybe. If he was such a pain to get, I don't think the Braves would have kept him around for 8, 9, 10 years. So yeah, it's baffling. It's an unforced error. Yes, you could say, well, 30 other teams could have signed him too, and that's true. But you know what? He doesn't have roots in 30 other major league cities. All right. He didn't have a hitting academy in 30 major league cities. He has roots in Kansas City. And I don't want to, turn this into another, we on the one hand, I don't want to do this all the time. On the other hand, every couple of months, it's probably good to just remind people how good Kevin Seitzer is at his job until the Royals start hitting, and they're not hitting. And they're 500 despite that. But imagine how good they could be if they actually had a league average offense right now.
Yeah, no, I listen, it has to be brought up, and it's part of the storyline because he was just sitting there and everybody knows it. That's for sure. All right, we will tell you. In fact, I've been working with my friends at David Starnes Allstate Insurance. When it comes to my insurance, they've been a pleasure to work with. They'll be a pleasure for you to work with. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Whataburger is proud to sponsor the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. Now at all your KC Whataburger locations, and for a limited time only, get your Whata Wings tossed in any of your favorite flavors, including the new Nashville Hot. Or get your hands on fire you can handle with the all-new, perfectly spicy Bacon Blaze Jalapeno Double. Get a kick this football season with these great new limited-time Whataburger favorites. Stop by any of the Kansas City Whataburger locations today. Whataburger's open 24 hours a day. All right, let's talk a little bit more about where this offense goes. Hunter Renfroe and MJ Melendez have struggled. We've talked about them. That is a problem. Now they're taking on injuries as well. Mark Canha, we mentioned, throw him out there. Well, he's hurt. Hunter Harvey's down. Sam Long's down. Jonathan India with the quad. So you've got Canha and India down on the offensive side. Let's start there. Do they have the depth? The obvious answer is no, because they don't even have the frontline guys, right? We can dispatch to the offense quickly. They don't have the depth, correct?
On the offense, yeah, they don't have 9 hitters, so obviously they don't have 10. On the pitching side, I mean, look, Sam Long on the injured list, might just be an injury of convenience, right? I don't think anyone will argue his injury is hurting the team because he was terrible in the time he pitched. And an injury, I hope he's injured because it would, in a sense, because it would explain his performance and hopefully he'll come back healthy and be better. I do not expect us to see Sam Long on the Major League roster without a fairly extensive minor league, quote unquote, rehab assignment to prove to everybody he's not just healthy, but actually effective, right? So that one doesn't hurt. Hunter Harvey, I mean, that's not good. Hunter Harvey, especially given his history. I will say, when I saw the injury, I briefly had real panic when I saw it was a teres major strain. Until I remembered that the rotator cuff has 4 muscles. I had to go back to my medical school anatomy. The teres minor is, even though it's minor, it's actually part of the rotator cuff. The teres major is not. So it's not the rotator cuff. It's a muscle more than the armpit area. And grade 1, my hope here is, look, the Royals have actually, the training staff has been exceptional the last couple of years. I mean, we know last year's success, so much of it was due to health.
Or they've gotten younger. And
they've gotten younger, that helps. But I think also they have become more proactive about catching these things immediately and not letting them flare. So I'm actually fairly optimistic that, he was warming up. He felt it. They did not bring him in. They put him on the injured list immediately. This is supposed to be a 2 to 3 week absence. Even if they give him a little extra time, just make sure, a month, that's fine. Just don't turn a 1 month injury into a 4-month injury. They can fade Hunter Harvey being gone for a few weeks. They brought up Steven Cruz, who, one of my hobby horses. I've said, all along, Steven Cruz is by good enough to be on this roster. He pitched, I think, inning and a third shutout innings in his first outing. They brought up to replace Sam Long. They brought up Evan Sisk today. Didn't pitch yet, but he's going to be making his major league debut when he does. He's older. He's 28 years old. Doesn't throw terribly hard, but he's a lefty with a very funky delivery, kind of a low 3/4, pretty much sidearm. And
he can get AAA batters out. We know that.
Right. Well, he can do that, but he can get left. I'm pretty confident he's going to be very tough on left-handers. Last year, he had a very good season in AAA here. I'm trying to look up his exact numbers. He gave up what was it here? 63 innings. I think he gave up 36 hits, but specifically left-handed hitters, 33 hits in 57 innings. He gave up 8 hits in 86 at bats. Like, that's a batting average under 100. Like, he's going to give lefties fits. I think that's the goal here. He's much more of a specialist than even Angel Serpa. I mean, Serpa also throws kind of a low delivery, but he's got the breaking stuff. He can pitch to both sides. I think Siska's going to be used exclusively, or as much against left-handers as possible. He can't be exclusive nowadays with the 3-batter rule, but like, they will use him as much as they can against lefties only. And I think he can be a useful guy in that role. And when you have an 8-man bullpen, you can have a specialist. You can have a guy who you're using specifically against one side. So I'll give the Royals credit that they have the depth, and if they ever decide to move on from Chris Stratton, which anytime they want to do that, I'm on board. Jonathan Bolin has quietly pitched very well ever since he moved to the bullpen. So they have some options in the minor leagues. The one thing I do want to shout out, though, do you remember how they got Evan Sisk?
Oh, it's a good question. I remember his name being thrown into a deal.
Got Steven Cruz.
That was Cruz, you're saying?
Well, I'm asking a second question. How did the Royals get Steven Cruz?
Man, I mean, I could click a couple of things and look, but off the top of my head,
I'll tell you. They got Steven Cruz in a trade when they traded Michael A. Taylor to the Twins.
Okay.
Do you know how they got Evan Sisk? Trick question. Same trade.
Same trade. Okay.
They got both of them in a trade for Michael A. Taylor in January of 2023, a few months after J.J. Picollo took over the job as general manager. And Michael A. Taylor had 1 year on his contract and was still a valuable player. He hit 21 home runs for the Twins in 2023, still played good defense, was like a 2-win player, was their starting center fielder for most of their playoff. They made it to the ALDS. They actually won a playoff game, 2 playoff games for the first time in 15 years or whatever. He would have helped the Royals, but he would have helped them win 60 games instead of 56 or whatever, right? Like, this is just a quiet little example of being transactional, not waiting till the All-Star, the trade deadline to move somebody with value. We talked about it then. We liked the trade at the time. You brought in 2 interesting arms. They're not superstars. They may never be, huge contributors, but they're depth. And Michael A. Taylor's on, his second team after the Twins now, and he's 34, 35 years old. He hit 200 last year or something. And like, it's a small thing, but it's an obvious move the Royals didn't used to make very much. He made a trade at the right time for a guy who didn't need, would have helped a team that didn't need him, and in return got some depth that now is kind of paying off. So I just wanted a quick little shout out for the Royals for picking up 2 guys who are now both members of their major league bullpen.
Yeah, and I think it does show that they do have more depth, but still not enough depth, because when you look at offensively,
yep.
If Jonathan India is going to be down for a while, I mean, Michael Garcia is doing well. Let's hope he can keep it up. But it was right about this time that he started to go south last year. So I think we're all like holding our breath on whether or not he's going to revert back to form or whether or not he's turning a page. Let's hope he's turning a page and he can do a solid job up top. But then who steps in for him? Right. And that's the question. Is this team one? We're going to get to Cole Ragans in a minute. We've seen Chris Bubich. Is this one that should be saying we can't let this season go? Or is that exactly what you don't do? Is the Rays way, you just let the season play, and when the deadline comes, you make your decision, but there will be no, we got to go get something now moves from the Royals. You play with what you got, and then you assess yourself at the last deadline, and you go from there.
So I think I think the Royals have to realize that they are going to need a bat, ideally a corner outfield bat, at some point this season. So if that opportunity presents itself sooner rather than later, that there's no point in waiting until July. Maybe the price comes down a little, maybe not, frankly. But you're going to have to do it. So you'd much rather have 4 or 5 months of an average corner outfielder than 2 months and suffer with what you have, because you don't have one guy to replace. You have 2, right? They're both out there at least 70% of the time right now. And look, I don't, this is damning with faint praise, but like MJ Melendez at least his defensive numbers aren't terrible. Like either maybe, and maybe he like the new swing has definitely not paid off yet. Like we're about a week away from him going back to the old one, where at least he would occasionally run into one. But I'm willing to give at least some, a little bit more leash there because we have no choice. But Hunter Renfroe, in addition to not hitting at all, has been one of the worst defensive players in the sport. I mean, the numbers say I think he's 4 runs below average, which is hard to do in like 16 games. And you don't need to look at the numbers. He has turned routine fly balls into triples at least twice this year. Just flat out, like, lost him in the sun, just took a bad route. Like, he's not contributing in any way, shape, or form. And I don't want to be cruel. I know it's a guaranteed contract, but like Chris Stratton, if neither one of those guys, if they didn't have a guaranteed contract, would likely have made the team in the first place. And at some point, you have to acknowledge the sunk cost and move on. And I think that if the Royals are able to acquire a player, whether it's July or if it's tomorrow, that will make them better, I think they've got to consider doing it now because they may need 2. So at least get one when you can, and then reevaluate your options in a month or 2.
But how many people are trading off bats now? That's the thing. Is like, I don't think there's anywhere to go right now.
Right. I mean, it's very early. It can happen. I remember the Marlins traded Luis Arias in like, it wasn't April, but I might have been like the first or second week of May last year to the Padres.
Yeah.
So there are going to be teams that are doing that. Like,
so we would, those teams would be the Rockies. I don't think the Pirates will punt, but they won't be far from it. Right. But the Rockies for sure. The Braves aren't going to punt. Nationals, if it's somebody that's not part of their future, but they feel like they're starting to come back around. Mm-hmm. The A's, I don't think so because they're trying to
not yet
show that they care. Twins aren't going to quit. It's the White Sox. It's Luis Robert.
He's definitely an option, but he's not hitting at all. The guy that really, I mean, you're going to laugh at me when I say this, and I think that the contract makes things complicated. But the guy in Chicago who intrigues me a little bit is Andrew Benintendi, who's like, after an absolutely horrible start last year when the team was horrible, was actually quite good in the second half and has been much better this year, and the pop has come back. The problem is he's under contract for 2 more years at like $15-17 million a year. Like, the White Sox would have to eat a lot of it, but I think they might be willing to, so, but the question is, are you willing to trade for a guy that you're going to have under contract, even if it's at a discounted rate, for 3 years to solve a potentially 1-year problem?
Well, why wouldn't you? Where's the answers that are coming? Right.
Well, my only concern is, if he's 30 years old right now, is he going to be like, and he was not all, he's already shown signs of decline. Like, he was not good his first year as a White Sox 2 years ago. And then he was bad the first half of last year. Then he's been good since. Like, is he going to be Hunter Renfroe in 2 years and be unplayable and you're paying him? So, like, that's the concern there.
I think it depends on how much you're paying him.
Right. Exactly. And that's why so much of it comes down to if you're able to get him and they eat 2/3 of the contract, you're paying him $5 or $6 million a year, no more than Hunter Renfroe now. Something to consider. But, making a 3-year commitment because of a 1-year hole is just, you just have to give that a lot of that. You don't want to rush into something. But that is somebody, if you want a complete wild card for a guy to trade for, is a guy, obviously a guy who has a history in Kansas City, and as far as I know, had, everyone that worked out for the Royals every way around. So, he could come back. But the fact that we're even mentioning that is testament to just kind of how up a creek the Royals are right now. They have legitimate contender ambitions, and they should. And they're, in deep jeopardy of having those ambitions thwarted by the lack of a bat, and they need one.
Yeah, I think, again, I'll point out they're in the middle of trying to get a stadium deal done and trying to get people behind them on that front. Mm-hmm. I will also say that, having some dead money on your payroll is kind of the cost of doing business. Yeah. Right? If you think you're going to have every nickel playing at a high level, like, you're not really being realistic. So I am intrigued by the Benintendi thing. The White Sox would have to eat a lot of money, but at some point you'd probably have to swallow hard and eat a big chunk of the money as well. And that might be, look, right now we'd say go for it, but 2 years from now, when it's like, oh, this guy's available. Yeah, we can't. We've got $15 million of Andrew Benintendi on the books while he's, rehabbing an injury or playing in the minors because he's not good enough, but, just showing up to get the check, then we would be upset. So the question is, how good is this team, right? Like, are you going to push all your chips in on this team right now? That's part of what you got to answer, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think. I mean, I don't. They're not going to mortgage the future. I think the bigger issue would be like trading one of their, top 7 or 8 prospects to fix this hole. Like the appeal of a Benintendi is that you might be able to get him and get them to eat a good chunk of that contract without surrendering a massive amount of prospect talent. Because yes, they absolutely believe their window's open this year, but I think the intention is that the window stays open for the rest of the Bobby Witt contract at the very least.
Yeah. It is a big test for them right now. There's no doubt about it. And it's one that if they're going to contend, they've got to figure out, and they've got to figure it out fairly soon, or they run the risk of burying themselves in a deal. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Cole Ragans, the road trip. We'll even get into the minor leagues in a little bit. First, we want you to hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, let's talk about Cole Ragans.
Happy talk.
Absolutely brilliant. Just continuing to be a dominant force for this team. Where would they be without him right now?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if they'd lost, the vibes after the first 2 games against the Guardians and the way that they just were not hitting at all, they, after a good series against the Twins, they were in a potentially dark spot, and they fell behind early. Some shoddy defense. They were down 2-0, and through no fault of Cole, and then he just not just shut him down there, but like made it to the 8th inning, left after just because Lucas Erceg needed some work, I guess, because he was 2 outs and nobody on base when they pulled him. But like he gave them 7 2/3 today. No walks, 10 strikeouts. That's the 3rd game in a row in which he's struck out 10 batters. The only other player to do that in Royals history, my favorite player, Kevin Appier, also number 55. By the way, like I just want to say how happy this is a random aside, but I just want to say how happy it is. How happy I am to see a star pitcher wearing 55 again for the Royals, because Kevin Appier was the first player who ever wore 55. And if it were up to me, they would have retired the number, or at least not let anyone else wear that number after Kevin Appier in 1985. But no, players that the Royals allowed to wear number 55 after him: Tim Burdack in 1998, Alan McDill, Max Suzuki, Tony Kogan, Nate Field. Then Appier came back. He got it back. How generous of them. Joe Nelson. Then they actually we forget this. Gil Mesh wore 55.
Yep.
And Gil Mesh was worthy of the number. And then Tim Collins, Nate Carnes briefly, Richard Lovelady, my favorite. And then, this makes me sad, Brent Rooker, the only hitter to ever wear 55, very, very briefly. Now it's Cole Ragans. I really hope, I look forward to a long and very successful career for Cole Ragans, such that him and Kevin Appier are really kind of held up as like these shining lights, and that maybe they can retire the number in both of their honors after we're done here. Because Cole Ragans, like, let me ask you this. Is he leveling up? Is he getting better?
It seems like it. I mean, he can't stop striking people out.
Well, 3 in a row, but also no walks again today. That's 4 walks in 23 2/3 innings. His walk rate last year was 8.8%. This year, after today, it's around 4.5%. Like, his walk rate has dropped every year of his career. the percentage of pitches in the strike zone per every year of his career. So these are not pitches called strikes, but pitches in the zone. As a rookie, 45%, then 49% the year he was traded to Kansas City, 49.5 last year. He's up to 51, and that doesn't count today. Like, he's throwing more strikes. His velocity is exactly, hasn't dropped. It's exactly what it was last year. 95.4 is the average fastball, which, for that velocity, as you get older, generally you lose velocity. So if he maintains that velocity, there's no reason. That's a good thing, right? Because he's a better pitcher. He's got better command, and he's got the same amount of stuff. It's hard to say he's going to be much better because he was already one of the 5 best pitchers in baseball. But he might be better. And I'd like to start the Cole Ragans strikeout watch this year, because he didn't get there last year when I predicted it. He got the 3rd all time, but the all-time franchise record for strikeouts in a season is 244 by Dennis Leonard. He has 34 and 4 starts, so 8.5 a start. If we just predict 32 starts, which is what he had last year, nothing special, 32 starts, he's on pace for 272, which will break the record by 28. So very early, but I'm going to be monitoring this for as long as he's on pace to do something special. Cole Ragans is awesome. He's rapidly turning into one of my favorite players, of the century, really, and maybe all time, because the Royals absolutely needed an ace, and just out of nowhere, they found one, and it's so much fun to watch him every 5th day.
Where does he sit in your mind in the Cy Young voting right now?
I haven't looked at what everyone else is doing for, he just got the 4 stars. Yeah, most pitchers have 3, but he is absolutely in the conversation, right? I mean, this is it helps that wins and losses are, win-loss record for a pitcher is no longer really, it's barely a factor at all, right? I mean, he was 0-0 before today. He got the win today. He's 1-0, because the Royals have not supported him offensively much at all. He got the 4 runs today. Yeah, it was enough. So I could see him going 12-9 or something like that, and still winning a Cy Young award. You can do that now. 10 years ago, even, that would have been tough. Whatever Felix Hernandez won, he went 13-12. That was kind of the turning point. So yes, I think it helps that he already established himself before the season as a Cy Young favorite. So people are already on the lookout for him. He's not going to sneak up. He doesn't need to sneak up. But yes, I think he has a chance. I know some people predicted him to win the Cy Young before the season began, and as long as he stays healthy, you just got to hold your breath. That's why, we've had some injuries, but nothing, there has not been any core injuries to anybody that makes you really hold your breath. Jonathan India would be a big one, but it really looks precautionary. He might be back in the lineup in a day or two. But if Cole Ragans stays healthy, man, that's why it's as bad as the offense is, I'm not changing my, predictions for 88 wins in a postseason burst just yet, because the pitching is still really good.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of the reason why when you have 89 pitches and he comes out, you don't complain, because you want him to be there the whole time.
Exactly.
So what are you doing taking him out? He could have gone the whole way. I'm fine. Especially when the bullpen's performing the way it is. Ursack, Estevez strike out every batter they see the rest of the way. 14 Ks in total for the Royals pitching staff today. Yeah, very impressive, to say the least. Ragans barreling towards being a top 5 guy in the Cy Young again. If you look at the ERA, I think he's 17th in the American League in ERA. It's 3 starts.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
I mean, that's why guys, are, lots of guys have had a couple of good ones, but it's the raw strikeout numbers that show just his dominance. He is one of the best pitchers in baseball. There's no doubt about it. What makes a successful road trip? They're 1-2. They headed out for 10. They've got 7 more games on this trip. 4 with the Tigers at the back end. 3 now with the Yankees. What do you think is a successful trip?
Well, first, I just want to really quickly say, you talk about stats for Cole Ragans. He leads the major leagues in strikeouts right now with 34. Yeah. So that's, when we talk about that matters to me more than ERA this early in the season, right?
He's also on the opening day rotation, so he's the first guy to turn.
He's the first guy to get the 4, right? But no, there are other opening day starters who haven't gotten there too. So anyway, something to watch. Road trip wise, I mean, here's the thing. What makes this road trip so difficult? It's not just that it's a 10-day road trip and they're going to New York, and then the Tigers, who are leading the division and, are going to be in this all year long. They haven't had an off day since, I think, April 3rd. Like they've played 10 days in a row, and they're playing every day this week. They're playing 17. They have a game 17 days in a row.
That's not till a week from tomorrow.
Right, that they have an off day. Exactly. So this road trip, I mean, it's 10 days, 10 games in 10 days after already playing 7 in a row before. So that's what really can test you. So, based on that, if they go 3-4, their last 7 games here, and so I guess it'd be a 4-6 road trip, they come back home 11-12. I would not object to that right now, even. Like, you got to get through this. The schedule gets easier. You get a little bit of rest. They're still kind of working through, the world's always into a season with like 5 dead roster spots, right? They certainly came into this morning with 4 roster spots just completely useless. Melendez, Renfroe, Chris Stratton, Sam Long. They replaced Sam Long. At some point, maybe they'll move on from Chris Stratton. Maybe they'll find an outfielder. Like they're treading water despite the sort of self-inflicted handicap. So if they can just stay above water on a difficult road trip, they'll come home having played more road games than home games. Like, things get a little easier after that, but 3-4 is what I'm looking for.
On the radio show, we talked about the 10-game trip and said, look, 4-6, I'm satisfied with. 5-5, I'm happy. I'm thrilled with 6-4. And they're at 1-2, which puts them on pace to, in my opinion, my hope is to go 1-2, 1-2, 2-2. Right? If you did that, I'm happy to kick the can down the road because Colorado is an awful team. Houston sub 500, Tampa sub 500. Baltimore sub 500. White Sox are a bad team. Got them for 4. That's what you get after it. So there is a reward. Now, Houston, we think, is going to be pretty good, but maybe not. Maybe this is the end of it for them.
They're very close to the cliff.
Yeah. And so they might not end up being a good team. So that might be one where, and it's at home where you can take 2 out of 3. So, you've got a chance to really make up some ground with those series that are looming on the other side. Plus that stretch there, which I mentioned, is 4 with the White Sox. It's 3 with all the others, so it is 16 games against sub 500 teams. What right now are sub 500? Several of them are 6-8, so they're not doormats. But it's 16 games. 10 of those are at home.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why this stretch, this road trip, it's important just not to blow it. Right? The old adage: you can't win a division in April, but you sure as hell can lose it. I agree. I don't think this road trip will lose it. But, just don't backslide a long way. If you would go 4-6, you would come back to Kansas City a game under.
Yeah.
And that's all right.
Exactly. That's 11-12 is we talked about before the whole tough stretch, almost 2 weeks ago, we said that would be acceptable. Just don't be 9-14. And yeah, I think based on what we know now, the next stretch of the schedule looks maybe even slightly easier than it did at the beginning of the season. So, the division is still there for the taking. The Tigers may be better than I thought. You predicted them to win, but the Twins have really shot themselves in the foot, right? Which, look, the White Sox are not winning the division, so it's 3 teams you've got to beat out. And if the Twins continue to play down now, the Twins started badly last year and came back up. It's a long season. And the Guardians are going to be in it, but they have the same offensive issues that the Royals have. So I think it's going to be a very competitive division. Just don't lose it in April. This team should be better in the second half than in the first. I think they're going to make some trades. I think they're going to get at least a little bit of support from the farm system. And I think most importantly, they're going to shed the below replace. There is something to be said for replacement value in the sense of if you have below replacement level talent, you can improve by addition by subtraction, right? And I think the Royals are in a position where they will be better simply because they will not continue to play the players that are just weighing them down right now.
All right, we mentioned we were talking earlier about the hitters. We'd get into John Rave, and we didn't really touch on him too much. But for the minor league minute, a couple of things to hit upon. John Rave, is he going to get a shot or not? They obviously don't believe in him, or he'd have been given a shot already. Correct?
I mean, I don't think when believing has levels. They don't believe in him as a future everyday player. No, but might they believe in him as a bench guy in an extremely desperate situation? I think we may be about to find out. I mean, the thing I like about John Rave, and John Rave, you should know, he was their 5th round pick back in 2019, 1 round after I believe Michael Massey. Right, 6 rounds ahead of Vinny Pasquantino, 4 rounds after Bobby Witt. It was actually a pretty good draft for the Royals that year. And he's always had good plate discipline. Like he always puts up like 350, 345 OBPs in the minor leagues, despite hitting like 250. He's got decent pop. The secondary skills I like. And he's off to a really good start in Omaha. I think he had a hit today. I'll look at what he did today, but he came into the day hitting 313. He has 7 steals in like 14 games. The walks are still there. The pop is still there. He's left-handed, so like you can use him in a platoon role. But if they want to pull the parachute on MJ Melendez and see if they can, get him through waivers and get him back to AAA to see if they can figure things out. I mean, John Rave can't be much worse than MJ has been in the major league level. And if you use him in a platoon role, he might be better. So it's something we have to start taking seriously. Like, we have to take every potential option much more seriously now than we did 3 weeks ago. And he is a potential option. So yeah. I would not be upset by any means if they gave him an opportunity here in the next couple weeks.
And of course, we have to talk about Jack Caglione.
Of course we do.
6 for 25 with a double and a homer coming into today. Or maybe did he have the homer today?
I believe it was today. That was the homer, his third homer.
Yeah.
So
6 for 25 with a double and homer this week. So cooled off a little bit, but still.
Well, you mentioned those numbers. The only number I want to talk about really is the number I just texted you. I texted you out of completely at random, like 120.9. So if you don't know what that number is, and if you don't, then what are you listening to this podcast for? But if you don't, that is the recorded exit velocity. I should say recorded because, like, I haven't seen at least one reputable person say, like, are we 100% sure we can trust minor league exit velocity numbers? Because that number is like almost literally off the charts ridiculous. And he's hit 116 before. We know that, right? Even maybe 116.9, like round up to 117. But the difference between 116 and 120.9 is like the difference between throwing 96 and throwing 100, or more accurately, between throwing 99 and throwing 103. Like, it's literally the difference between like elite velocity and historic velocity. Because 120.9 miles an hour in the entire StatCast era, which goes back to 2015. So in 10 years we're talking the major leagues now, a batted ball has broken 120 24 times in all of Major League Baseball in 10 years. And that 24 sounds like a lot until you realize Giancarlo Stanton has 16 of them. O'Neal Cruz has 5. 3 other guys, Ronald Acuna, Aaron Judge, and Gary Sanchez, have hit 121. So let me repeat that. Aaron Judge has hit 120 miles an hour on a batted ball once in his career. Now we can add Jack Caglione to that. Now it's minor league. It doesn't count. But 120 opposite field, I should point out also, is, look, there's sometimes there are certain skills you want to see a guy do over and over again, like defense. A guy can make a great play, but if he's not sure-handed, doesn't matter, right? But exit velocity, if they're, like pitching, throwing velocity, I don't need to know that much about it. If a guy takes the mound, I've never seen it before in my life, and he throws the first pitch 103 miles an hour, I don't need to see much more to be able, like, that guy's a prospect. Whatever he is a prospect. I don't need to, when a guy hits a baseball, I don't care if it was batting practice, 121 rounded up miles an hour, that's a prospect. If he's doing that while also showing reasonable plate discipline, he struck out 10 times in 45 plate appearances, so his strikeout rate's 22% this year. Not great, but not bad. Certainly for a guy with power. He hit a home run today, opposite field, his first oppo of the year, 406 feet. By far his shortest homer of the year, only 406 feet. So, the combination of tools, exit velocity we've never seen before in a Royal. I should say the hardest hit ball in Royals history is 118 even by Eric Hosmer. By the way, it was a ground out because it doesn't matter how hard you hit a ball if you can hit it in the air. And
that's right.
That sums up a lot. But the hardest hit ball we've ever seen by a Royal since we could record these things. Bo Jackson may have hit 120, wouldn't surprise me, but like that's a long time ago. We can bring up Bo Jackson all we want, but like we have to remember Bo Jackson has not taken the field as a member of the Kansas City Royals in 35 years. So like it's been a long time, even if Bo Jackson was hitting 120. But you combine the tool and then the skill he's showing on the field, which is he has got a 935 OPS in AA right now in his first full pro season. We have something here. Maybe I can't tell you it's going to be a superstar. I can tell you that whatever he is, he's going to be fun. Like, however good he is at the major league level, he's probably going to be more fun than his performance suggests, because even if he's just an average or slightly above average player, like the ability to occasionally hit a ball 470 feet is going to be fun. And it's going to be something we haven't seen a lot of in Kansas City. So it's okay to get a little bit more excited with every passing week.
Yeah, he is. Here's what I would ask you, though. Like you mentioned, Giancarlo Stanton has a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
And Giancarlo Stanton's been hurt a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hit the ball too hard? Like, can you swing too hard? He does not appear to be over swinging. Right. So that's the beauty of it. Like, but do you fear a little bit an exit velocity when you say Aaron Judge hasn't done it, makes me think, okay, well, and he's got not quite Aaron Judge length, but he's down that road. Does he need this kind of exit velocity? And does it put you in the red line area?
I mean, it's a good question, because yes, Stanton obviously has injury history, and also because if we use the same the same analogy to pitchers with elite velocity, pitchers with elite velocity, it is definitely a mixed, it's a mixed blessing, because there's definitely the curse that comes with Tommy John surgery. If you throw average pitching velocities too high, you're at higher risk for tearing your arm ligament. Maybe if you hit a ball that hard repeatedly, you are putting, whether it's your joints, your back, something at risk. And it would be the case for Stanton. Now, Aaron Judge has been, we keep assuming he's going to break down, but he's actually been relatively healthy. He's had a few injuries in his career, but like everybody gets injured at some point. And he's rumbling around center field. So that's also not easy for a guy that big. So I'm not that worried. It is certainly something to keep an eye on. It's very early in his career. He's not had any injuries that I'm aware of. It looks like easy velocity. I certainly wouldn't want him to be, swinging 100%, swinging for the fences. Like, it just seems like this is who he is. It's natural for him. But it is something that bears watching a little bit.
Yeah, it does. It does. We will see. Hopefully we will see him in a Royals uniform at the right time, but hopefully that right time is very soon. That's for sure. Listen, I can tell you, you can support the Kaufman Corner podcast by supporting our great sponsors. I mentioned it. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance, is helping me out with my insurance. They can help you out with your insurance. They're absolutely fantastic to work with. Give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331, North Lane Injury Law. If you've been hurt in an accident, don't hesitate. Call Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years. Voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers. Text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot, serving Kansas City for more than 30 years. You can find them online at gannasphalt.com. And our friends at Whataburger. Remember, Whataburger's open 24 hours, serving breakfast 11 p to 11 a. It's the best breakfast you can get on the go. Whataburger's breakfast is available 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Get on in there and enjoy your bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. Maybe it's the breakfast platter. Maybe it's biscuits and gravies. I don't know what you want. They got a great breakfast menu. It's available 11 p to 11 a. For the good doctor, Dr. Rany Jazayerli, my name is Soren Petro, saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.